Welcome to Yoga Biz Camp with myself, Michael J. I'm a yoga business coach with 25 plus years of experience as a creative, a total tech geek, and a yoga business owner. Today I'm thrilled to welcome Katie Donzanti, a studio owner in Orlando, Florida, and fellow Mindbody Champ. Today she shares what it was like opening a yoga studio with accessibility and inclusivity at the forefront for her business model and how she walks the talk. She also shares her personal resilience as a studio owner and making it through the pandemic and leaves us with some hope moving forward. Enjoy. So I'm thrilled to have Katie Donzanti with me today. Katie Donzanti is a wife, a mother, a rebel change maker, an animal rescue advocate. She owns a thriving, accessible, and inclusive yoga studio called the Peaceful Peacock near downtown Orlando. As a passionate yogi entrepreneur, she's a punk rock creatrix seeking to bring yoga to diverse beings and honor yoga's roots. Katie is vocal about most yoga happening off the mat. And as a former digital marketing executive for Harley-Davidson, Universal Orlando, and NBC, she brings a vibrant passion for digital creative solutions and logical user flows. Her team helps to change the world by offering all levels and accessible yoga 7 days a week. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
So the first thing I want to say, creatrix, I had to look that up. And I found out it's a woman who is deeply connected to herself as a woman and feminine source of creative power. She gives rise to desires, gives birth to ideas and life of all kinds. Does that sound like you?
That is one way to describe me in a very unique way, in a word I had to look up.
I did have to look that one up. So Katie, you, how long have you had your yoga studio for?
We are entering our 4th year of business now.
And I'd love to know, because you have a different story to a lot of yoga studios. In fact, that you are not a yoga teacher, but you opened this because you saw a need of somewhere you wanted to serve. So Can you tell me about that sort of need and how that came about and the concept around that?
Sure, absolutely. I was a digital marketing executive for many years, very long hours, high stress, high pressure, deadline, and solution driven in corporate settings my whole marketing career. So that mode of work felt very normal to me, but it also started to leave me very burnt out, very hollow. And I just didn't feel like my talents and my passion were being used for anything I believed in.
Yeah.
And I had started doing yoga. I was a student of yoga. Yoga helped me really find stillness in the world, which isn't something that I was taught as a child or really learned as an adult. And so then when I found yoga, I thought, gosh, what a powerful thing. And I started to go to more studios, and I started to go to studios when I would travel. And in my own town, I kept seeing that I look just different enough that when I walk in a room, people want to talk to me. They want to talk to me about my hair. They want to talk to me about my tattoos. And sometimes the comments from that aren't so good. They didn't make me feel good. The space didn't make me feel welcome. I'm not thin. I'm not flexible. All of these reasons that I've heard other people through the years say why they can't do yoga. And I also started to see it through the lens of just accessibility and who had access to yoga in my town. All of the studios were being operated out of pockets of affluence. And I just felt like there had to be a different way. There had to be a better way for my neighbors and my friends in the area that I live. And so I had kind of come to a point in my marketing career where I had done everything I set out to do, all of these milestones and goals that you have when you're a young marketing executive. I had checked those off and just kept a notebook of ideas about, gosh, I'd love to own a studio, talked myself out of it hundreds of times for a variety of reasons. And then one weekend just got feisty enough to take my notebook of ideas and tell my husband I was going to leave my marketing career and open up a studio. But I had no capital. I had no experience. I hadn't worked in a yoga studio. I had only been a student of yoga at that point.
Can you tell me, so the accessibility part, that's for you, that's financial accessibility, right? So your model is very different to what is going on in the rest of the world.
So accessibility has a lot of
Yeah,
layers, and
yeah,
doesn't always just have to be financial. Financial is a component
yeah.
of accessibility, but when you think about people coming into a space or a business, what do they need, and what are the things that maybe different people in different positions, in different bodies, in the body that they have today, how are we in modern day yoga studios not making things accessible? How are we making them exclusive? We price them out.
Yeah.
We're on the second story. We're not addressing people's pronouns correctly, so like that was something where I felt really passionate about looking at our facility, looking at our teaching team, looking at even how we market. You'll notice when I do posts on social media, I always put an image description, and that is so people with a visual disability can also enjoy and absorb and be marketed to and understand what you're doing here. So those are, when I say accessible, it's really like a handful of different things that come together. We're all working on and we're all learning on, and they're getting more visibility day by day. We're learning more, and just really trying to open up access. So when you hear traditional studios say yoga is for everybody, well, how do you walk that talk? How do you make it for everybody? If you're selling drop-ins at a rate that's not affordable for someone, then you're lying. So here we really walk our talk. If you are willing to try yoga, we are willing to help you. We don't know everything, but we're here. We're willing to help. We're willing to learn together.
So your pricing model is different to what's going on now in the rest of the world, right? It is, you are making it more accessible.
Yeah. So I don't typically fit into conversations with other businesses when it comes to pricing. And, they really kind of operate on a supply and demand model. They operate on, just kind of the demographics of where they are and cater to a certain niche population. Yeah. And so by having a lower and accessible price point, you broaden that net and you open up the ability. But I just, myself and my team are really passionate about people having the ability to come and pay for it. And what would the world look like if more people could afford yoga, were doing yoga, bringing mindfulness into their workplaces, the roads, standing in line at a grocery store? Like that's really kind of on a cellular level what we're trying to do here. So pricing, whenever I get into pricing discussions with other studio owners, there's always this like, raise your prices. And I'm out in front of that going, no. And here's why. And so have we had pricing increases over the years? Yes. This is not a nonprofit, but I always try to, at the end of the day, go back to like, what is a reasonable amount of money for someone to pay that is achievable, budgetable, but also values what we're doing here.
I love that. So you came into this not knowing anything except for having something that you and I have in common, and that is a marketing background that really helps run a yoga studio. But when that initial, you had that concept, how was the hiring of people to be like-minded and to put a team together from nothing that are all on the same kind of path as you? How can you tell me a little bit about that?
So in 4 years, I've never once had to place any sort of post or ad. All of my hiring and recruiting is done through word of mouth connections and just kind of the currency of trust. Yeah. So I knew the teachers that I had gone to that I felt like were a really good cultural fit. That then, for one reason or another had maybe left yoga, weren't teaching actively anymore. And I just started asking them, you've left yoga, you're not in the industry, you're not doing yoga in this town. Like, put some feelers out, the next time that you're at, a happy hour or something and you see somebody, like ask them. But I kind of started to just like plant the seeds with people that I trusted about that I was hiring. And then it just kind of took off. because I think, just something that's a differentiator is teachers were curious to talk to someone that is coming from a business background and not a
Yeah.
yoga teacher,
Yeah.
someone that is really just dedicated and focused on the operations, the business, and the leadership of a studio.
Right.
So it took me about 2 months of correspondence, taking demo classes, networking, and then I opened the studio with a team of 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did you hire them based on the fact that they kind of met your mission and vision? They thought along the same terms as you, or similar, same goals?
Same goals.
Yeah.
I think the ability to teach a yoga class, it gets better with time and experience, but I can't teach you how to be a good person. I can't teach you how to believe in God, and I can't teach you how to really believe in that most yoga is done off the mat, or it should be, that it's really not about the poses. It's about the structure and the tenets of yoga and just kind of the lifestyle, but then also the talent of being able to work with diverse bodies, diverse populations, people
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
yoga with different requests, people that didn't feel comfortable in any other studio showing up on our door saying, I'm ready and I want to try this. And like, who was going to be the face and the heart on the other side of that saying, let's do this
Yeah.
together. That's really what I was looking for and got, and really still have, going into the 4th year now. Most of the original team is still here. We've lost a few people along the way. That's
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
But the longer we're together, the more we learn, the more we can cover and serve.
Yeah.
The more access we have to education as we go.
What do you do what do you do to support your teachers? Because I found when I had the studio, a lot of my time was spent, in a good way, on building them up and helping them be the best teachers that they can be.
So what you get with me is very much, I am down for whatever. I am willing to do wild things, experiment, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. As long as it really makes sense from an operation, logistics, safety, and brand standard with me, I'm really open. And in that room, in the studio, I empower them to be the boss in that room. I'm not telling them how to do yoga. I'm not, everybody really brings, I always liken it to a buffet. Like we're stocking all of these dishes, and some of them have different flavors, and some you might try and not want to go back to, and some might be your favorite, and some pair well with others. And so it's like kind of about having that buffet, but like, how do I support them would be like just ongoing discussions about feedback.
Yeah.
It would talking about their goals. What do they want to do? What are they seeing? We get together and talk about who are we seeing in the studio? Who aren't we seeing, and why aren't we seeing them? And what do how do we lead? How do we put social justice at the forefront of yoga and lead by example with that, and work on being allies through this and this time? And so I'm very accessible to them. I work in the back of the studio. I'm here probably, realistically 6 days a week, if not 7.
Yeah.
And so I think being visible, available, being open, and then just being like, they always know where they stand with me is another way that I think we really support and have a really great team dynamic here.
Right. So this is a business podcast. So I'm kind of curious now, when you started, how, or even now, how your marketing background helped you create your business. Because I'm imagining that was a big asset.
Marketing was the only thing I knew how to do and do well in this. And I believe everyone should go through that experience in life where you're an utter and total novice at something and
fail.
I would walk into like state or local jurisdiction licensing offices to get my business paperwork, and they would treat me like an intern. and just the experience of that, like coming off of having produced Super Bowl spots and then having someone really talk down to you, like it's very leveling and it's very humbling. So I didn't know how to do anything but marketing, and marketing was really what I, kind of held up when I went after the space. I met with my landlords and I said, their first question is, have you owned a studio? And I'm like, no. And then they said, well, have you worked at one at least? Have you worked at the front desk? And I said, no. And I just said, I'm a really good marketer and I promise you I can get people in here. And if that is like I promise I will do it. And they were gracious and supportive enough to take a chance on me. But it was having that branding background, understanding how to craft messaging, understanding really like the life cycle engagement and stages of the funnel, from awareness to conversion to then just how you retain your biggest fans over time. Layered into the experience in the studio, the design of the room, how you feel, how we talk to each other when we're in the space is all very intentional here.
You've got the marketing background. How did you learn how to put a structure in place for the business? Because I know you're a big part of Mindbody and you're a big part of the champs and, and I know there's a lot of support in there. So I'm kind of curious how you learnt how to put that structure in place.
I took the structure that I sort of knew from coming from corporate working locations. And so I knew, like, I was really clear on HR. Like, I knew how HR really worked and flowed, and I developed a guidebook. I'm decent at writing policies because of the marketing and what we would use in marketing at my previous jobs. Like, I had a strong legal background. I understood what would get me sued or get me in trouble and like avoid those situations or get policies written to be able to protect the business. But as far as like learning, it's grit, it's being open, it's like accepting loss, defeat, learning from your mistakes, leveraging the strengths of the people around you. When I found someone on my team that was good at something that I wasn't, like, put them in that slot, make it happen.
Right.
And asking for help. And then I really started to kind of build a team of trusted advisors, consultants, people that keep the Peaceful Peacock alive, well, healthy, and are knowledgeable in the areas that I'm not. And also I love to work with people whose brains don't work like mine.
Yeah. So you hired a consultant.
I did.
And we both know her, and she's, very wonderful consultant and very different to you.
She's very different to me. If you saw us out having dinner, you'd be like, what's going on here? We couldn't be more different, but it is through that contrast that I think the strength of how we collaborate, but then also like the positive outcomes that we've been able to kind of create together. And it's because she is a very black and white thinker.
Very data driven. And
yeah, she's very data driven. She's very linear. She really makes good sense. Whereas I'm a little bit more, I think, in color and sound. I get overly excited about things that might not lift the needle all that much, but make me happy in my heart. And she would also just kind of remind me of who I am and what I set out to do when I needed that. So I'm a huge believer in keeping those people in your back pocket.
Yeah.
And like, depending on, I think there's consultants and I think there's mentors and people have various relations with that. But like, I'm an advocate of working with someone and letting you be their project.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the fact that you embraced somebody that was the complete polar opposite of you. But I think that brings balance into your business, right? Because you've got that, crazy creative side and marketing, what have you. And then to have somebody balance that out with the hard numbers and the forecasting and all of that stuff, I can imagine that was a great thing for you.
Yes, and in the moments where I really needed to be pushed to do things, to do hard things, like have a price increase,
Yeah.
have strict policies about no show,
Yeah.
um, like really get firmed up on a couple of HR things. There were people on the staff that I loved as humans, but professionally were taking away from the work that we were doing, and so she just really was an anchor, still is, just an anchor for me. It just keeps me like really tethered, because I would be up here and all over if for without these people.
Yeah. And so I think you've had some great guidance along the way. And so you've got this wonderful, thriving business that's got structure to it. And then we've gone through the last year and a half where kind of everything's kind of got thrown up. And you have been, I think, I see you as a Mindbody Champ. I see you in the Mindbody One forums, and I see that you really utilize community and support within the community. And I think you help people, but you also ask a lot of questions in there too.
Yes. Community is huge for me when it comes to leveraging the support and wisdom of your peers.
Yeah.
It is about bringing up discussion topics, and sometimes they're hard and sometimes they're fun.
Yeah.
It is about, I think I do a lot of learning in those situations too, where it is, people handle things differently. And I have a pretty consistent way of handling things as me. But sometimes just hearing someone else's perspective who operates in a different wavelength is really helpful to me, because either it allows me to be able to adjust in that moment, or it validates for me what I'm doing. So community, and as far as just like connecting to each other and supporting each other. And also, if you live this life, there is relatively no one else that can relate.
You're solo. Yeah.
So the ability to like, in person or digitally look into someone else's eyes and say, I get you.
Yeah.
And I understand, and I am sorry. And that sucks.
Yeah.
And that is amazing. And you're doing it. Like, that really matters. And do my friends tell me that stuff? Yes. Does my husband tell me that stuff? Yes. But like, coming from someone that really understands what your lifestyle is like, is like, it's just solid gold.
Yeah. And as a studio owner, I've been there. You are kind of on your own in your own little world there. So to have those connections. And then the other thing in the Mindbody One forum, what that I noticed at the beginning of the pandemic was there was all these studios that started going, cancel memberships, and they just did, everything free on YouTube or free Instagram or what have you. And in the Mindbody One community, everybody was like really supportive of each other, going, no, don't do that. Don't cancel. Don't. And I just really felt that was a strong leadership area for everybody to come together and say, yeah, as a community, let's not cancel our memberships. And
it's unlike anything we've ever seen. And there was no guidebook. There was no structure. We were all being given, different information from our local authorities, our national authorities who have never spent a day in our businesses, talk to us, and really just trying to make it up as we go. And without that community, I don't know that I would have personally survived in my heart.
Yeah.
Studio would have really made it out, because we just all got together. We got together on Zoom. We talked, we cried, we would send documents. There's a real open sharing of knowledge, which is really important to me, because it goes against traditionally what you see in businesses, where they're gatekeeping and they're like, well, I did something, but I'm not going to show you. In community, like, I have this, take this, or like, use this as a guidepost, or I hear you talking about problem XYZ. I may have a solution for that, and so you get what you give with this group. And I get so much, just even from, people will see different things on social and they'll say like, I really liked your post, the way that you described this updated policy, or the way that you handled that interaction with a client and turned it around. there's so much available to you if you're willing to just kind of spend the time and cross-check knowledge.
Yeah. Resilience this last year. So, how have you mentally gone through it? Because I know here, I mean, we're still on partial lockdowns here, and it's open, close, open, close, open, close. And I know the studios I work with, that wears thin after a while. And so can you sort of talk about that, how you've mentally been able to,
Yes.
get through this?
There have been several stages of grief involved in that. There have been several versions and iterations of myself, of my mental health. I am a person with real determination, grit. I believe that the impossible is possible. The byproduct of that is I don't know when to stop. I don't know when to let go. I will work all day and all night. I will burn the candle at both ends. I have a 4-year-old. Like I was full-time mothering through most of that. And it really came down to the resilience really spun out of granting myself grace to just accept like none of that was my fault. I could have never planned for that. Nothing that I had done in the previous 2 to 3 years of business was ultimately going to save the studio from what happened and the extended length of time. So I think like acceptance and resilience are like twins. Like I think they're like really close siblings that you can't have one without the other. So, through acceptance, I sort of then got resilient. And the more you practice with resilience, the better you get at it. And resilience too is it's a lot of like state of mind. It's like, what is the world that you're living in? And so, when you read my bio earlier, I always say I own a thriving yoga studio.
Yeah.
Well, is that a little bit of puffery right now because we're still really struggling and really down and really in the red coming off last year? Maybe. But if you're redefining thriving, which I think we have done, then yes, absolutely. I own a thriving yoga studio.
It's a lot of attitude, right?
It's all about attitude, and it's all about like choosing kind of your day. And none of us could have accounted for that. We didn't know what we were doing. We did the best we can. And I remember too, in the beginning, getting on some of these team calls with other owners across the country and feeling less than, feeling like I wasn't doing enough. Like I wasn't creating like a robust live streaming platform at the time, but I physically couldn't. Their lives were different than mine. Their resources were different than mine. And so I threw out comparison too. And, like there were a lot of standards that we had prior to last year that then I just kind of threw out the window. Like I used to post we had very curated social messages every day. It was programmed for months out. That all went away. Those plans went away. That content went away. Like that didn't even matter.
Yeah.
And there were days that I couldn't get out of bed, and I didn't get out of bed, and I didn't post on social, and it didn't change a thing.
Well, and I agree with that history of, the history. I mean, I'm working with studios where the KPIs, key performance indicators, mean nothing right now. Like the historical data means nothing because it's like for everybody, it feels like a complete reset from here moving forward.
Totally agree. And I think once you get a little momentum too of like, just moving forward. I worked hard to get out of this mindset of I have to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that.
Save the studio. When you use the verbiage and the positioning of I have to save something, it's very daunting. And so I kind of also, there were 2 really big evolutions for me tied into that, which is I went into the pandemic with horrible, almost suffocating imposter syndrome of like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to get found out. And I'm finally going to my pants here. And now I'm like, no, I am good at this. Like I weathered this storm and I'm good at this and I want to do this. And the other part of it was just like how much other people gave to me and supported me. I mean, the late night phone calls or, like when, there were people that like could tell I'd get on Zoom calls and they were like, you're not yourself, what's going on? And just like being able to like lean into those bonds helps resilience. It helps you get back up because on the days you don't believe in yourself, someone else believes in you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. This morning, we were on a champ call together, and that was I loved how you were talking today about taking the pressure off having to keep everybody else safe. And I had a conversation with a student yesterday that said, well, I'm not going to go back to the studio until the studio can prove that everybody's vaccinated and they can keep me safe. And it's just we're in different spots all over the world right now, and you're in Florida, which is opening up now. But you had a conversation this morning about taking the pressure off yourself about saving or keeping everybody safe. Do you mind talking about that?
No, and I think, we have those conversations and I hear that and I understand where that student is coming from. I understand that being the lens. I understand the impact of fear, the impact of things being unknown, the impact of going into a room of people who you don't know where they've been, what they're doing, what health choices they've made in their life, and that being a really significant challenge and fear to overcome. And I think that, we have responsibility in the wellness community to hold hands, have those talks, but we also, that line of like, what am I responsible for? What are you responsible for a really long time? My line was 100%. I was 100% responsible for keeping everyone here safe, the staff, the students. And we did that through a variety of protocol. But then time continued and things changed, data shifts. And so I got to a place with it where I just started to feel like things were not healed. Things were not 100% better. I don't know when that's going to happen, but if you're living very presently, the day to day, I was getting indicators that people were ready to come back and they were ready to come back in a certain way. And so then I really just planned for that, messaged for that. And there's going to be people that don't want to come back for their reasons. And I support their reasons. I do.
Yeah.
There's people that are ready to come back and, we're here and, this is all going to move and continue to kind of like shift and change. But I would have to ask that person that's saying like, unless you can prove to me that people are vaccinated, and I would have to throw up my hands and say, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And
what of what we have now is people's business, and everyone has an opinion on that, and that's okay. But like as a small business owner, as a yoga studio owner, I just had to like really sit with, and I had to redraw that line for myself.
And you said,
and I may redraw it again. I don't know.
Yeah. And you said something about that it took a lot of pressure off of you to put the responsibility back on the person to keep themselves safe or something like that.
I think in yoga, we talk a lot about agency and we talk about autonomy and we talk about, the choices and the advocacy that you have for yourself in yoga. Whether it's like, no hands-on adjustments or, not wanting to, being invited to like close your eyes in Shavasana versus told, close your eyes like that. For me, it was about, giving some of that back to people and saying, you have the power. Yeah. Like you are the best advocate and judge of what you need. So you take that, you think about that and like, let me know how I can help.
Are you back in full capacity in Florida, or you're limited?
You could be. We are not. We are running about half capacity, and we're not full to half capacity. I would say we're probably 25% as far as actual attendance. And then our mask policy is in line and applies with what's happening at a state and local level.
And what do you think, you know, as the next stages for your business? I mean, and we can, I feel like right now it's very hard to plan anything. It's kind of a month
Yes.
a month at a time right now with my studios, because it's very difficult with, different capacities. What do you feel that the next stage is for your business? Do you have any, and how can you build back or win back customers? And any thoughts on, because you're a marketing whiz, like, can you think that the messaging might be able to help there?
I think the messaging can definitely help. I think for us right now, it's about new students again. I'm almost just like really going back to the fundamentals of year one.
Yeah.
So we're not building from the ground up. Things have changed. People have moved, people have lost jobs, they have canceled memberships, all that sort of happened. It's still happening. It still remains. I also think it's worth acknowledging how much the price of like just certain things in the world have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
That, it has to come from somewhere. And sometimes it's going to be the yoga or the wellness budget. What is the next phase? Acquiring new students. The next phase is breathing new life slowly resuscitating our schedule. So we went from about 40 classes a week down to 14. We're at 21. And so continuing to add in more of those times that were top performers prior to this at a slow and sustainable rate. It is constantly reevaluating compensation for my teachers because it's still on the low end since things have not snapped back very fast for us here, and having ongoing discussions about that. And then just, even though I think it's really important, even though I don't know that I'll ever feel completely like I'm digging out of the hole that 2020/2021 left for me, still thinking about the future and dreaming and speaking things into the universe and making plans for fullness and, not letting myself think small just because the revenue is still kind of in the tank. And so I think that is also important just from a sort of leader mentality of like keeping my staff and my students engaged. Like, look, like, we're still making plans. We're still making plans to be here for a very long time. We have so many ideas. We were just getting warmed up when this all started. So we're getting back into the mode. We're getting back into, how do we plan great events again? And, are there any modifications that we make to the space? Here, we plan to still be here. Does this space still serve? That's the next for me. That's going to be from now until the end of the year.
Yeah, I love that, having that optimism and hope. And I think we're all living in hope right now of getting to somewhat of a normality, whatever that looks like now. We don't know. So let's kind of round this up with just a few fun things about yourself. You're a wild and crazy gal. So let's see is there anything that about you that most people wouldn't know? Is there one thing?
I had to ask around about this because I feel like I learned like an open and forward way. I'm like, everyone knows everything. Like, there's nothing.
Open book.
So I got 3 funky responses. The first is I have a tattoo of Elvis's face on my rib cage.
That would have hurt.
That jet black hair. The second is, if I wasn't doing this, I would either be somebody that owned like a fancy fun cheese shop to talk to people about cheese, or a top dog trainer. And the third thing was, they wanted me to I have a bearded dragon in my office, and they said, You should put her on camera. Reptile lady, I love reptiles. So those are the things most people probably don't know about me. Everything about me is an open book, and I think you get a real slice of the creatrix when
the creatrix, my new word for the day. A favorite business tool, website, or app that something has, sort of helped you on the business side of things that you use? Or
mine is a super basic one, and I'm a time blocker.
So
I take my to-do.
Me too.
Yeah, and I correlate it to the time it's going to take me to do those things, and then I slot those into the week, into time things, and make almost appointments with myself to get things done. The other kind of business tool that has really come out of last year for me is I charge certain people now, like there are causes or people that come to me, and I charge for brain picking.
That's
because I get a lot of requests for, I want to leave my job. Can you tell me how you left yours? I want to own a business. Can I pick your brain? I'm opening a new business and would love your insight on marketing. Can I pick your brain? And so I do, of course, hand out a healthy dose of favors on that stuff, but also to really value the time and have sort of an equitable meeting. That was important. So I've started charging for brain picking.
I see a future consultant in the making here.
All this excess time I have, sure.
But you live by your calendar. That's probably.
I do.
That's everything to me. My calendar. Yeah.
I'm constantly chasing ease and like lightness, that. But I'm responsible for a whole community here of hearts and souls. I'm responsible for a household. And I take a lot of responsibility on for the world, and the change that I want to see.
So a last question, what is a favorite personal fun website app where you might hang out?
Is Marco Polo. Have you heard of Marco Polo?
No, tell me.
Marco Polo is, I'll pull it up. I'll show it on my phone. Marco Polo is a video messaging app. The icon for it looks like a beach ball.
Okay.
And basically like message back and forth with people. And Marco Polo saved 2020 for me because it helped me to stay connected to my staff, to my friends, and it's kind of like texting in a video format. So when you go to text and you're like, it's too much to text.
Yeah.
Well, instead of like calling or FaceTiming that person and you both have to, be there at the same time, you can send a Marco Polo and like, here's my brother.
That's awesome that you do that. And I'm really glad.
And, he lives in Wisconsin, and I talk to my dog trainer all the time. I'll send her videos of my dog and she'll come back and tell me, oh, don't let him do that. And so Marco Polo, I hope to become a Marco Polo influencer. Marco Polo, if you're watching, sign up. But this is like my number one app, and I try to convert everyone to using it because it just helps me stay way more connected.
So why is it different than just sending a video message by iMessage or text?
I'm a person that like cleans out my texts and like cleans out my inbox. And I like the ability to like go back. Also, let's be honest, there's fun stuff in it. There's voice filters, there's video filters, there's
okay. All right.
And like if you're watching a Marco Polo, you can take notes. So then when you respond back to the person, you can take notes in the app and then respond, and then the notes overlay their face. So you can be responding to them, cover all those points.
I think video communication is a huge thing. I just installed on my website a video ask. And so for people to get into my new Yoga Biz Camp community, they go through a little, it's me talking on video. But what was cool yesterday, I went to the beach and I got somebody went through the process asking to be in the community. And from the beach, I was able to respond by video saying, hey, thanks for the entrance. I'll be sending you an email. And they just loved how personalized that was. So I love it. Well, Katie, sorry.
Each other's faces.
Yeah.
Like everybody's a mess, right? So it's just nice. And I think it's more impactful, to say, like, you can say to somebody in a text, good job. But if you're in a video going, good job, like it changes the tone.
Yeah. Especially when you can see the eyes in people. Yeah. Katie, thank you. How do people find you?
Definitely look for funky hair on the streets of Orlando. That's the first telltale sign. The second is you are always so welcome to email me. It's info@peacefulpeacockorlando.com. I accept all fan mail, ideas, questions, suggestions, hair color, inspiration pictures of your dogs. Send all that. And then follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is just / Peaceful Peacock Orlando, and Instagram is @Peaceful Peacock Orlando. And if you liked what you saw today, there's plenty more of that relatable content on both of those platforms for you.
Katie, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your resilience. I have a lot of admiration for how you've kind of come out through this and come out on the other side. And I love that you are looking forward with a great, hopeful attitude. So thank you.
Very much. Well, thanks for having me. It's been a real blast.
Thank you. This is Yoga Biz Camp. This is my new by invite only dedicated space to support yoga businesses. It's like Facebook but without all the noise and clutter. Here you will find all my resources, including free monthly fireside chat business question and answer time with myself, and along with all of my different communities from studios to solos to the inner circle. Here you'll find guest interviews with leaders in our industry, and as well as all of my free resources, all in one dedicated space. I will also be running all of my courses out of here, and the next one is a summer camp. It's 8 weeks for solo yoga businesses to create a registered series. If you're ready to become the next Yoga Biz Champ and get private invite into my free community support space, go to yogabizcamp.com, click on Yoga Biz Camp, and I will see you on the inside. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our podcast. It really helps us out a lot. Thanks a million.